Hello, this is 74 Steve DC, and I just want to talk about this video here. What we got here is we're pouring a basement floor. We shot this probably about a week ago, and the driver's actually outside the foundation. The house is already built, and we're pouring through the front door. They haven't installed the stairs yet, so what we're doing is we got a 14-foot concrete poly chute, and the little blue thing you see to the right, it's called an elephant trunk. And what we do there is the chute is connected to that. There's another guy up in the first floor, and when we need to add the concrete, we kind of just yell up to him. He's there waiting, so we can tell the driver what we need done. So right now we're about ready to pour the back left side of this basement. And the concrete that we're pouring today is a 4,000 pound concrete with a mid-range in it. And this concrete has 2% accelerator in it with a mid-range, non-chlorinated. And there's poly down on the floor. They've been blowing heat in there for about 3 or 4 days now. And what this guy's showing you right here is he's looking for where the laser is. There's an orbital laser that spins around a Bunsen industry transit that we use, and what he was looking for is the mark on the depth. Sometimes on the walls, you can't really see it good in this video, but on the walls there you can see the red laser that spins around sometimes on the walls. And what we do is we'll go to the edge of the wall, and you set the bottom of the rake to that mark where you see the red laser hitting the wall, and we'll put a tape around the handle. And what that does is, depending on where you are on the floor, you can just stand up your rake and you can see if you're high or low. But like I said, if you look closely on these lolly columns, we shot the grade on these, and we put a sill seal that wraps around, and that's at the top of that sill seal is the top of the grade. And then we'll chalk lines all around the perimeter, and we'll shoot little stakes out there, grade stakes that hold the grade. They're probably about every 10 feet. So on this job, you're really just going 5 to 10 feet, and you always have a point. So it's pretty hard to screw it up. And what we do is they're actually foundation ties. We pound them in, we shoot them with a transit, and we spray paint them fluorescent orange so you don't trip over them. And you'll see some of the guys in the crew have a hammer. And what they'll do is when it gets to the grade that they want, and it's right at the very top of that pin, the grade pin, they'll tap it down. They'll tap that pin down 60, I think it was 68 degrees I was just showing you there. They'll tap that grade down, the pin down, or as you can see, I don't have a hammer with me. What I'll do is I'll just step on it. As long as you step on it and bend it over, and it's underneath the floor about an inch, it's fine also. So that's another way you can do it. Just a little easier to do it that way. That's kind of the way that a lot of times I do it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but that way works pretty good for us. So here we are pulling the concrete all out. And this concrete wasn't as hot as I'd like it to be. I think it was, this first truck was around 68 degrees. We were probably the second or third round. I'd say 10 o'clock. 10:30 is when we started this pour. And what they do is, as he probably went on another job and poured out a bunch of yardages on that job, and they just refilled the water in the tank, and he probably had a whole bunch left. So it's real cold outside. It's February. It's probably 25 degrees outside with the wind chills. It's like probably 10 degrees, 5 degrees outside. So those tanks cool down quick. So it wasn't as hot as I like it to be. And this first truck was, like I said, about 68 degrees. The second truck was better. It was about 90, I think it was around 94 degrees, 96 degrees. And that second truck actually set up about an hour and a half faster than this first one, even though it was poured about 25 minutes after. So it makes a big difference. This has poly underneath the floor, so it dries actually slower. And it's actually better if you have 2 inches of rigid foam. It holds the heat in and dries actually a little faster. So we're kind of just pulling the concrete around to this back corner. Then we're going to pull to the other corner. So we're trying to basically get the concrete spread out as much as we can with how we have the chute set up. And like I said, that's a 14-foot poly chute, and we have a tripod that this is sitting on. And then we always put it on a bucket. It just works better than sitting it on the ground. So we're kind of just raking it around, trying to get it to grade. Now this video probably would have been about 40, I think it was about 42 minutes it took us to pour both of these trucks out, because it's a little harder when you got to move it all around like this. And we only moved the chute actually 2 times during this whole pour, I believe. So basically what we're trying to do is get this basement poured out without, as much as we can, without in this area with the chute set up the way it is. So every once in a while you'll see me signal the guy upstairs to hold it up for a minute or to start it. It's just a clockwise signal that I gotta say sometimes, or I yell up to him, "Yep, hold up," and now we're moving the chute around. We're gonna finish this other section of the basement. We're setting up that tripod. As you can see, the coal chute is actually backwards. The chain is actually down where the bucket is. And the reason for that is this particular tripod, the way it's designed, we actually modified it to reinforce it. But a lot of times what would happen is the thing ended up getting bent, and we ended up re-welding it and reinforcing it. But the way that it seems to hold this particular coal chute better in this position than it does at the other end, because it's wider where it connects to the truck. So that's the reason why it's flipped around backwards. Now, sometimes you can see it where I end up kicking it around with our feet, and it's just because in tight areas it's actually quicker to kick it like a soccer ball into the corners, around the poles. You just turn your foot sideways and you can kick it around and move it around faster, depending on where you are, than you can with a rake. You can move it, and you just tap your foot to kind of tap it a little bit to get to the grade you want. So that's what we're doing here. Now, one of the other guys you see in this video, he's been doing floors since the mid-'80s. And we learned a lot from him. Sometimes, he's been working with me for probably 10 years or so. And so we learned a lot from him. And the way that my company is my cousin does this also. I have a lot of friends that do concrete work and foundations. And like I said, my cousin does the same thing. He was a foreman for a big company up out of New Hampshire, and he owns his own company. His company had like 12 employees, and they did a lot of big rated jobs and things like that. They did big commercial stuff, and he was their foreman. And we team up with him on some projects, and he's friends with another guy that does foundations too. So sometimes you'll end up seeing about 12 of us guys on a big floor. We all help each other out. We all do concrete work. It's hard work, and the trick is to network with people. Especially if you're a friendly guy, and it's good for sales to pick up jobs if you can approach people that you've never met before and try to sell yourself on a job, and it helps you out a lot. And like I said, my cousin does this for a living. We all work together, and that's why you learn a lot from working with these guys. I mean, this guy that you see in this photo here has been doing it since the 80s. We started doing form work back together in the early 90s. And right there you can see we're shooting grade with the transit. I'm shooting a couple different areas, and I'm going to bring out that power screed shortly. This is like a magic screed. It's got a Honda 4-stroke. It's a 12-foot bar. And what you see is I toned out the areas that are on grade, and what I'll do is I'll make kind of like railroad tracks I'll buzz it, and then I'll run this thing right across these railroad tracks to keep everything flat. Like I said, this is like a Magic Allen screed here. It's got a 12-foot blade. They have all different size ones you can put on it. But as you can see, it works out great for this particular basement. Goes all the way from one side to the other, and you'll see it even come out when I hit the lally columns. I got to kind of kick it around them. Now you see to the left is a guy. He's out there with the 5-foot bull float, and he's kind of going over what I just hit with the power screed. Now we're setting up the chute to pour the last section. Going back over it with this bull float. This is a magnesium one. Sometimes we use one called Big Blue. It's a 6-footer, and it's made out of steel. And I think I was showing that temperature was 96 degrees. And we'll use one called Big Blue, and that one's it's shaped kind of like a Fresno, but it's actually a lot different looking than a Fresno. If you look at it, it's about 10 to 12 inches big. Not only like a Fresno that's real skinny. If you tried to use this thing after the bleed water came up, that particular Fresno, it doesn't even really work. So we use it kind of early, and people say, you can't do that. It'll seal the bleed water in there. But trust me, we've been doing it for 15 years. And I've gone back on jobs, and one of the other guys has been doing it for over 25 years. And I can assure you that it still sets up and it doesn't peel the top like a lot of people say it does. And I can assure you it doesn't. But for this video, we're using this magnesium one. Now that tripod right there, I think that's about $240. It's really handy. Sometimes you can use sawhorses, but this is adjustable. And it works really well, so we use it for foundations too. I want to say it's probably like a $250 piece or something like that. And the cold chutes, I want to say $550. That little elephant trunk is probably, I think that's $230 for one of those. And you can find a lot of this stuff at your concrete suppliers. I have 3 to 4 different companies that I go through in this area where I buy products, and I'm always looking for new stuff. If you guys know of any cool new stuff that you have that you don't see in this video, well, put it down below. I actually have some other cool toys that I bought that they don't even make them anymore. I got these floor edges called kippers, and I think these things they were like $4,000 when they came out, and it looks almost like a weed whacker, but it's cordless. It's Milwaukee that makes them. They're 40 volt batteries, and it looks like a little tiny power trowel. And I actually own 2 of those. So those were, that was $8,000. I didn't pay that, but that's what they went for. There's a couple of videos out there on the internet. I think that company went out of business. And like I said, I sold one of them, and I kept one. Don't use it. It doesn't work that great. A couple times we have used it, what it did is just kind of peeled and ripped up the floor. I'll probably try it again sometime. I think it was a little bit of how we were using it when we first got it. But it seemed kind of hard to use. I don't know. I'll try it again someday. If you guys have any other cool products that you guys use that you're not seeing in this video, let me know in the comments down below, and subscribe. I know a lot of people, I'm kind of a newer channel, but I got a lot of really cool stuff coming up, and I don't want to quite say what it is. But if you guys subscribe and follow, you'll end up seeing a lot of neat stuff that I subscribe to a lot of the concrete other people out there. And, there's a lot of great guys out there that make some great videos. They've been around for a while. But I got some pretty cool stuff that I'm trying to put up stuff that they don't do or they don't have. And so I can kind of show you some pretty cool stuff in it. I've been waiting for the right weather to try to bring out some of these products and the right jobs. So there's a lot of stuff coming up, and it's not all just going to be concrete floors. A lot of it will be, but I want to kind of do a lot of different stuff, because we actually dig jobs and do foundations, and we do floors, and we can pretty much do a lot of different stuff. and some of the stuff I just kind of like messing around with cars and different guns and firearms and things like that. So here we are kind of just going over different areas, kind of cleaning it up there. I think we're almost done this pour. You can see the steam coming out of there. And like I said, I'd like to see the concrete about 115 degrees, but if you order it first round, certain companies that we probably use about 6 different concrete companies just because we work in a lot of different areas. The little red laser beam is the Bunce Industry Transit that we have set up. And you got to be careful if you're on a job site and you see those things going around. You never want that hitting your eye. They make you sign some kind of paperwork that, you're not supposed to look at it. So you got to tell everybody in the crew, and all these guys have been doing it for a long, long time that are in this crew. I think the least experienced guy has been doing it for about 15 years. Unless my kids are on the job. But they're learning real fast too. So if you guys got any questions down below, post them down below. And like I said, we got a lot of little things. In the past, we've, if you don't do the tape on the poles to shoot the grade or anything like that, in the past we've actually used furring, and we'll go to the corner of the foundation and you hold it right under the floor joist. What you'll do is you'll just cut it to that length, and you can check it anywhere on the floor for level if you but it's kind of a little bit of a pain. Sometimes you can't use your transit down the basement or whatever, or for whatever reason you don't have one. You could do that. Right there you can see me hitting it with the transit. And what I'm doing is I'm checking a couple different areas before I bring out the screed, make sure everything's good as we're buttoning this particular project up. Now he's kind of just fine, going over it kind of real fine to make sure everything's right where it needs to be, getting out some of the footprints. I think I'm going to go walking through there and make a whole bunch of footprints back all over his work.